Hi, I'm John, and I call this slow learner because I'm a learner, and it helps me to learn things better to teach them to other people. And so that's a main part of my motivation here. And I'll be sharing some things that I learned that were useful, have been useful to me on the baritone ukulele, and I hope that you get some value out of this and can advance your own playing. Please feel free to like this and comment, and if you have other things you'd like me to tackle, I could try to make another one of these. This is my first attempt at this. And I do want to say it's not because I'm an expert, okay? So if you're here for a nice slow-paced look at a topic, that's kind of what I'll try to provide. And this will be useful for anybody who plays ukulele in theory, but in practice it'll be most useful to you if you play baritone ukulele. That's the instrument that I have here. It is tuned the same as the top four strings of a guitar. So the strings, the notes are from bottom to top: D, G, B, and E. And if you do play guitar, this might still be good information for you, especially because some of these movable shapes work really well on the top four strings and might allow you to move around and do things more easily than you do if you're gripping all six strings at once. But I decided to do this video on movable shapes that you can play anywhere all up and down the fretboard. It's commonly known as the CAGED system, C-A-G-E-D. And there are a lot of videos on this topic for acoustic or electric guitar, and they helped me figure out some of this on the baritone uke, but they also kind of confused me, and there were certain points where having those extra two strings caused people to use different grips and kind of changed the discussion in ways that made it more confusing for me. So we've only got four strings to keep track of here, and we've only got four strings to hold down, so that makes it easy to do movable shapes where you might have to bar some of the strings. If you have trouble with hand strength doing this on an acoustic guitar, and you are in the market, maybe try buying a baritone ukulele. It's quite a bit easier, and I highly recommend it. It's a fun instrument. Sorry, my microphone was in the way there. The idea of these caged shapes is that you can play any major chord in any location up and down the neck of the guitar. So for instance, I can play an open G, but I can also play a G here. I can play a G here. I can play a G here. And I can play a G using the method I'm about to show you here as well. And those are all G major chords. They all have the same notes, but they're using different strings in different locations. And why is that useful? Well, there's kind of a couple major reasons. One, you can pick the sound of the chord that you like, and even though they're the same notes, when you flip the order, that's called a different chord voicing, and it can sound pretty different. Like here, this open G on the baritone uke, I don't like too well. It doesn't have a G note down low. This is the root, or the G in that chord, and it sort of gets muffled with the D underneath it, I think. To me, that's kind of a better sound. I don't know if you can tell any difference, but I like this voicing of the chord better for a lot of applications. So it gives you that flexibility of finding the chord in a way that sounds good to you. The other useful thing about it is that if you're up here in the middle of the neck and you're holding down all the strings with your left hand, you can do left hand muting. So you can be like, that kind of stuff. Whereas down here, the only way to mute is to use your right hand. And there's a lot of great ways to do that, and it's a good thing to try to learn how to do and try to practice. But for me, and for a lot of people, I think it's probably a lot harder than muting the strings with the left hand. So that's a good reason. And then another reason is that when you're playing these chords up here in the neck, it can be easier to find scales and notes for single note work, like if you want to play some melody lines or try to take a solo or something like that. It may be easier to put together the notes for your song, or to connect two chords with a short fill up here than it would be if you were playing the same chord down here. And I couldn't find those exact notes, right? So a lot of the little melodic things that people do on guitar can be a lot easier or harder depending on exactly where you're playing, even though you're playing the same chord in the same key. So that's a little bit about why you'd want to do this, but how do you do it? Okay, so we'll start with the first shape in this system, which is the C shape. And throughout this next section, we'll be playing C major the whole time. All right. So the first shape for playing C major is the C shape, and this is an exception to the rule. I'm going to show you this one first in the open position at the nut here, and so your index finger can go here. It's usually how I would play it in the open position. So that's holding down a C on the first fret, and it's the B string. All right, and then to play this note, which is an E, the third of the chord, you can fret the second fret of the D string to get an E note. All right, and that's typically how I would play it if I was playing it open. But as a general rule, we're not going to use the index finger in these movable shapes because we're going to need it. All right, so instead, put your middle finger down here on the first fret, holding down the C, and then put your ring finger up here on the second fret, holding down the E on that D string. And that gives you C major. And the notes of the scale within that chord are the root, which is the C right here on the second string. That's the root. And then the third, which is an E, and that is on the top string, the high E string, but it's also doubled up down here on the D string. So, and then the third note to make the chord is the fifth, which is a G in this case. And it is the G string, the third string on the uke there. So, in order, it's root, third doubled up, fifth on the G string there. And when you know those notes and where they lie, it gives you a lot better sense of, for instance, where to start a melody or where to start a scale, and it's very useful for getting into soloing and getting into chord tones and things like that. So it's especially important just always to remember and reinforce to yourself, where's that root? And in this movable C shape, the root is in one place only, right here, where your middle finger is holding down the note. Okay, how's this movable? Right now, I'm just playing an open C major, and I haven't gone anywhere with it, right? So how do I move it? Well, I bring that index finger into play, I slide everything up a fret, and now the index finger is holding down the G string right there, and it's also holding down the high E string. So I can play it like this with my index finger lower down on the fretboard, but for comfort I usually just lay it right up there, and I roll it a little bit, and I lay it so close to that fret that looking at it you might not even be able to see that fret. Alright, and now I'm playing a C sharp major or a D flat, and if I move that up another fret I can play a D major, an E, if I move it up two more, an F, or a G, or an A, and then I'm kind of running out of space and it gets a little bit more difficult to play. So the C shape is a easy one to move around. The root is always right under your middle finger, right here. So if you wanted to start a scale, you could start it there. And it's quite a useful shape to know. So now let's look at the next shape. And if you go back to the C here, that shape has the fifth right here. It's that G. But you can play this an alternate way. And this is an important thing that helped me figure this whole thing out. And it was provided to me by watching another video that I will link to in the description. But like I pointed out, that you can put down this pinky here on the third fret and play a G, and that is still a C major chord. It's just now you've replaced this third, which you already have here, with an extra fifth. So you have Do, so. Two different strings playing a G. And you don't always want to play it this way, but you can if you want to. But where it comes in really handy is that this is now the pivot point, or the location where you go to find the next chord shape to play the same chord, in this case C major. So once you're holding down the C shape and you want the next one, put down your pinky 3 frets up from where you have your index finger. So if I was here, it would be there. But I'm down at the nut, so it's here. And then pivot your index finger to that location and put down your 3 free fingers a couple frets up from that on this 5th fret in this case. Alright, so hopefully you can see that. And it's kind of an awkward chord to hold down, but that is a C major chord, and I hope you see the relationship to the A major shape that you would normally use to play A major down here. If I slide that up, that's a B, that's a C, and that gives me that chord. Alright, so index on the 3rd string, all the other fingers on the 5th string. I can play that. I can also just lay the index finger all the way across here and play it like that. It might be a little awkward to keep this one fretted firmly under there. Some people, you might like it. Some people might use it occasionally. I don't think it's a very good movable shape. It's kind of hard to slide around. All your fingers are tied up, so it becomes difficult to try to play any melodies or single notes. So I'm not going to say too much more about the A shape, except this is where it is and this is how you play it. Alright. There's another important thing though. What's next after A? Well, C, A, G, E, D. So G comes next. This A shape is most useful to me as kind of a waypoint on my way to the G shape, which I'm going to show you in a minute. And then I'll tell you what these notes are and how they fit into the chord. So once you've gotten to this A shape, now these 3 fingers are on the next fret. That's going to be your next reference point. And you're going to now slide up so that your index finger is on that 5th fret. Alright. And now you can play C major by holding down your pinky on the 8th fret, another 3 frets up. And that's your C shape major chord. Sorry, G shape. And it just happens to be the C that I normally play on the ukulele. It's to me the easiest way to play a C chord, and it's right in the middle of the fretboard, so it makes it very convenient. That's a C major. And to review real quickly, we got there this way. We started with the C down at the nut, put the pinky down on the G as a reference point, grab that with our index finger, put the other fingers down on the 5th fret. Now we're playing an A-shaped C major chord. Put the index finger down there and grab this top string with the pinky. And now we're playing a C major chord, G shape. Alright. And the G shape is a very convenient way to play C. You can play D by sliding up a couple frets. It's nice for playing A. And like the B chord or B flat, you know, those chords aren't easy to play open anywhere down on the bottom of the near the nut, but you can get a B flat here and you can get a B here, and then you're back to C on the 5th fret. So it's a super good major chord shape that's very easy to move around. Normally my fingers are just here. I was just trying to show you what I was actually fretting, but normally my fingers are right here, and I can move that around nice and quickly and easily. Alright, what are the notes here? Well, this is the G shape, and there are 2 roots. The lower root is on the G string, so the next to lowest string. That string right there. Right there is the root. That's a C. Then the 3rd is right above it. Do, re, mi, fa. Do, re, mi, fa, sol. That's the 5th, which is a G in this case. La, ti, do. That's the root again. Alright, so the root is up here on the top string as well. Re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Alright, and that's a pretty convenient layout for playing a lot of different scales and things. You can play a whole major scale pretty easily without changing positions. And if you think about it, you know, that's not true everywhere. If I go back down here to the open C and I try to play the major scale, do, re, mi, fa, sol, I have to go up on this single string here to continue that scale upwards. Whereas down here, or up here, where the G shape is, I can play the scale starting from the root right here. Learner, slow learner, alright? So I don't know these scales real well myself, but I can find my way to them by listening, and I can recognize that this is easier than trying to do it down here. And there are a lot of situations where you don't have a lot of time to shift your hand and try to complete a phrase or something, and so you're better off in a place where you've got everything in one spot. So I really like the G shape a lot. It's super useful. The notes of the scale are the same on the A shape. You have the root, re, mi, the 3rd on the 2nd string, the B string here. Fa, sol. The 5th is on the high E string there if you're playing the A shape. So basically what you're doing going from the A shape to the G shape is you're trading out this 5th for the octave up here. Alright, so you can play it in the A shape, or you can play it in the G shape. And I think the G shape gives you a little bit brighter sound because you're you're doubling up that octave, which is kind of a nice thing. It really emphasizes the character and the key and brings out the C pretty strongly. So, great shape. All right, what's next after that? Well, C, A, G. Next is E, right? And once again, just like before, the place where you started is the highest note on the last thing that you played. So you're kind of chasing your fingers up from the nut towards the bridge. So now we're going to move our index finger to the 8th fret where the pinky is located. And that will become part of this new chord. But this is the E shape. And once again, I hope you can see how it connects back to the E that you would play on the open position. Index or middle finger here, ring finger here. Normally you'd play that index middle, but we're saving our index finger. And then slide it up to get an F. And you can slide that up to get a G. And then you can slide that up to get an A. And then you can slide that up to get a B. And then you can slide that up to get a C, which is where we were before. Okay, so just to recap how we got here, and this is slow, right? Slow learning. We started with the C shape, and we put down the pinky as our reference point, and then we played the A shape, and then replace that mess with your index finger, and you can play the G shape. If you lay down your pinky here for the top note, the root, and then slide up to where your pinky is, and put those two fingers down for the E shape. All right, and that is a super versatile and nice shape. I should point out the only notes you're actually holding down with your index finger are now these two notes, these two strings. So you could play it like this, but for comfort I think it's easier just to leave your index finger extended all the way across those strings, and it leaves them fretted in case you want to lift off with any of these fingers, which, if people are interested and if I get any positive response to this video, I might show you how to make minor chords and 7 chords using these as a starting place. And that's another key advantage of these. If you know where the 3rd is, you can always make a minor chord by dropping down a fret, 1 fret. So this is a C major. This is a C minor. That's the flat 3rd. So C major, C minor. And you can also usually make 7 chords pretty easily out of these shapes. And just in the case of the E shape, I'll show you. If I take this finger off, the ring finger, now instead of playing a C, I'm playing a B flat, I guess, and that becomes a 7 chord. Okay, but where were we? We're on the E shape, and the E shape starts on the bottom with the root, and of all the shapes, this one's the easiest one to kind of think about because it's root, third, fifth root. So it's do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, all the way up, right in order. And so it's just kind of a delightfully easy shape to use. It's great as a starting point for a scale. You have to reach up here a little bit. Got to find them. People don't normally play melody lines with these things strictly held down like that, but it helps you to know where to start. And as I get good at this, I'm sure that I'll be able to find those skills a lot quicker than I would if I tried to memorize every type of scale at every different location. All right, so it's kind of like you've got a roadmap, and then with a little bit of practicing and a little bit of reinforcing, you can build a scale by thinking it through rather than having to look it up somewhere or use a reference. And that's why this whole thing is good, at least for me, to learn things, because sometimes I want to try to find a way to play a song, and I don't know quite how to get to a chord because it's taking too long to try to find the one that I know in open position. And so reconstructing this CAGED series, I can find a figuring in a place that works so that I can play things more quickly and easily. And that just makes it easier to remember too. If you've figured it out yourself, it's easier to go back something and use it again. So anyway, we were on the E shape, and this is the C. Well, I can't quite remember where that was, so I'll have to go all the way back and practice it one more time. All right. So open C is here. Put the pinky down. A is here. Put the finger down there. G shape is here. Shift up to there. E shape is there. We're still in the C major chord. There's only one more chord. After that, there's the D shape. And the key to finding that is really just to follow this root now. So this is the furthest toward the bridge of all the strings that we're playing. And it will be the new location for my index finger. Shift it up 2 more frets then. And then to play the D shape, I build a little triangle here with my fingers all scrunched up on those frets. For many people, it's easier to do it by fretting down this like that, and then add the string, add a finger here. I find it almost impossible to play at this location, high up here on the neck. But that is the D shape. I'm going to show it to you down toward the, not here, where it's a little bit easier to see. So I'm fretting these 3 strings in a triangle formation. So open on the D string, then 2nd fret, 3rd fret, 2nd fret. But since I'm keeping my index finger handy, everything kind of gets shifted around. Middle finger here, ring finger here, pinky there. And that's a open D. And if I slide it up a fret, that's a D sharp or an E flat. And if I slide it up another one, that's an E. And it's kind of a cool sounding way to play an E, which is one of the advantages of knowing some of these voicings. Like, you know, the E down here, it's okay, it was a little bit, I don't know, muddy or something. The E here, I think it doubles up a different tone, and it gives you kind of a fuller sound. Kind of like it. So it can be really cool to know some of these movable shapes and experiment with them. What are the notes in the D shape? The root is here, and I'm going to show it to you here on the E chord just to, again, make it easier. The root is under your pinky in this case, on the B string. Do, re, mi. The third is up on the high E string there, under your ring finger. Do, re, mi, fa, sol. The fifth is right here under your middle finger. La, ti, do. So I should have said do, re, mi, fa, sol. So the root is doubled up, and your index finger is holding down the root back here, and your pinky is holding the root here. Do, re, mi, fa, sol. Alright. So that, again, having that doubled, that octave on the root, gives you kind of a more powerful sound, and really brings out the key, and is a good chord to end on if you are trying to reinforce that sense of resolving tension or something like that. So that's the D shape, and I showed you how to find all of them for C major. And then just, one more sort of practice for proof of concept would be to do that for G, all the G major chord shapes. And the easiest way to do it is start with the open one of that name. So we start with the open G shape chord, right? And then we follow the finger that's closest to the bridge and go there with our index finger. E is the next letter, and so we would play the E-shaped G chord here. And that's my favorite way to play a G chord, for sure. It's a great location. It's got a great sound. You can hear the G and the root, and you can easily make it into a minor if you want. It's just a cool place to play a G. The E shape, after that we get the D shape, and so we slide up to this fret where we previously held the root, and we hold the root there again and put up our fingers in that D formation, and we play a G up there. That's also a cool sounding G. And this little triad here, the D-shaped one on the 7th fret right there, is a cool little thing to play around with if you're playing G. It's an easily movable thing. You can change it to a minor by playing the D minor shape. That kind of idea is a lot easier to come to if you find these chord shapes first, and then you start to think, oh, how can I use little pieces of this to make melodies and stuff. Alright, so that's the D shape. Now, how do you wrap around and get back to the C? That's something we haven't done yet. And the easiest way to kind of think about that is to look at this little triad and remember that looks a lot like the bottom of a C chord, right? So that's where you actually shift your index finger up to. You shift up 2, and then you put your middle finger down on that same root. That was part of the D shape. Now it's part of the C shape. And then you just put your ring finger down here to complete the C shape chord. So that's a G major using the C shape. And then to make the A, we put our pinky down, use that as the pivot to find the A, which is very awkward. Then put our index finger down, use that as a pivot to find the G way up here. Unusably high, pretty much. All right. But it's the octave of, this, where we started. Okay, that's the open G. All right. So that's how to use this in the key of G. G, G in the E shape. G in the D shape. To get from D to C, just hold down those strings where that bottom of that triangle was. G in the C shape. And then to go from C to A, use your pinky and pivot up and grab the A shape. So those are all different ways to play G. You'll notice only maybe 3 or 4 of them are practical because they're in the middle range of the ukulele neck, but that's still, a lot of options that you have and a lot of starting points for playing these chords. Last thing I wanted to show you, now that you know how to do all the different shapes, is how to use them to play progressions. So we'll start with the C shape, and let's just say this is going to be a C sharp, this is going to be a D. Let's say I'm playing a song that's in the key of D, right? So the main chords that will show up in a lot of different types of songs, and they'll all be major, would be the D chord itself, the root note chord or the home chord, the G chord, which is the 4th, and the A chord, which is the 5th. All right, and all those will be major chords. So you might want a convenient way to go from D to G to A. Well, what I did there, I was starting in the C shape, I went up to the G shape, and I just shifted up 1 fret. C shape, G shape, G shape, G shape, C shape. And it doesn't matter what key you're playing in. I don't even know where I am here because I'm still not mentally real quick with this stuff, but it'll be the same, right? Sorry. Up 1 to the G shape, and then up 2 from the 4 to the 5. So the basic idea is you find the 4, and then you shift that up 2 frets to find the 5. Okay. So once again, if you're playing the C shape, you can find the 4 by going up 1 fret and holding down the E shape, and then another 2 frets is the 5th, and then down 2 frets is the 4 again, and then back to the root, or the first home chord in the key. All right. What if you start on the G shape? Like, for instance, maybe I am here. I'm in C. I'm in the key of C. That's a C major using the G shape on the 5th fret. There's an easy way to get to the 4th which is to play the C shape in the same location. So all I have to do is pop those two fingers on to play an F, which is the fourth of the C major key. All right, and then to get to the fifth, I just have to go up a couple frets. Shouldn't use a pick for this. So you can see how easy and economical that is. If I compare it to playing down here, to C, C, F, 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 G, G, F, F, C. Ugh, you know, the strings don't, the voicings don't sound as good, I don't think, and there's a lot more like noise happening, and I have to move my fingers a lot more. So I much prefer that. Same chords, different spot. One last example is starting from the E shape. So let's say you're playing something in the key of G, and so you're right here, the E shape, centered on the 3rd fret with the two fingers going up to the 4th and 5th frets. That's a G major. The 4th from a G major is G, A, B, C, all right, and then the 5th is D. So G to C to B, oof, that's kind of complicated even here. It's doable, but I don't know. What about up here? That's easier. And what's happening there is I'm going from the E shape to the G shape, up 2 frets, and then I'm sliding that up another couple frets to get the 5th. All right. So E shape, G shape, G shape, E shape, G shape, G shape, and the chords are G, C, D, C, G. Alright. So that's a little bonus. Now that you know how to play them and what the notes are and how to find them, you also can play some progressions. If you enjoyed this, comment or like it if you care to. You can buy me coffee, and that's link is in the description. And like I said, I promise to use that money to pay for musical experiences, whether it's playing in my local community ensemble where I pay to be part of a band called the Community Center for the Arts in Urbana, or putting something in the tip jar for local musicians.